There's moments in every climber's career where they have these seconds in which they're in the middle of a rock climb, and the fear and the passion and the adrenaline is coursing through you so much that it's almost difficult to really stay within the moment and stay within the focus. And recently, I kind of had one of those moments where it's just like, man, this can't really be happening because I really can't lose my focus. And the story starts out with, I was in the middle of the desert next to my home in Grand Junction, Colorado, in this really fun place called Escalante. And there was this really, really interesting finger crack line. And I can't even say it's a finger crack line. It's barely tips, and you lay this thing back for about 70 feet, and you do this very interesting switching of corners in which you're facing one direction, and then you have to put a tips finger lock in and put another one in and pull up really hard and switch your body so that you can lay back in a different direction on just the very, very, very tips of your fingers. And when I was working on this route, there were really safe moments in it in which I was able to pre-place gear and just kind of go up and clip the gear and feel comfortable and happy. And when I was ready to actually send the route and get the first ascent and kind of work my way through it, I decided that I was going to try to place every piece. And I know that sounds kind of interesting, like that's of course what would happen on a trad route, but what's difficult about it is the rock was so rotten that every once in a while, or at least soft, that the gear would just pull out. And prior to my attempts on this route to place every single piece, I had managed to blow 4 cams and break them completely and watch the rock shatter in an array of wires and metal and all this other random stuff where as you're falling and you watch these mini explosions come out, you kind of wonder, like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Because quite potentially I'm going to end it pretty soon. The other interesting thing about this route was the fact that I couldn't just stop and put pieces of gear in wherever I wanted to, even though it was a continuous crack. The route was so difficult that I would have to do these very long runs in between small nests of climbing gear, which were about 0.1s and 0.2s from Black Diamond, which was kind of scary just thinking about it. It's these itty bitty little like fingertip sized pieces of metal, hopefully keeping me from hitting the ground. And so the day that I decided that I was going to man up and try to do this route without placing or having any pre-placed gear, I did the opening of the route very simply, and then I just started putting my little small nest of 4 pieces together. And as I looked up the crack, I realized that without that pre-placed piece up above me, it was a totally different monster. I felt like some fear, and I felt a lot of adrenaline, and I felt a lot of pressure all of a sudden to not fuck up this route, because I was close enough to the ground that if my nest of gear ripped, I would just hit. So after taking a few deep breaths and calming down, I decided, okay, it's time to try. So I did my opening sequence, and I got through about 10, 15-foot section of the route where I was like, okay, I'm into the crux. And I looked at the move, and I was like, if I'm going to let go, I have to let go now. Either that I'm going to go another 5 feet above this, and then I can't let go. I can't fall. And so I was like, okay, so this is happening. I'm going to make this happen. So I enter the crux sequence, which is this very difficult foot push, and you're laying back completely, and you're ready to slip off. It's very awkward. You're fighting a barn door. The route is slightly overhung, so you're just kind of swinging out. And I place my left hand above into a very, very shallow part of a layback in the crack, and I quickly bring my right foot up, my right hand up to match next to it, and my right foot kind of swings back and out, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm still here. And I bring my foot in, and I stand up into my first little lock, and I feel really good. I feel really comfortable, but I can't feel my fingers correctly. And I remember thinking, like, okay, just keep going. And I move up the next 5 feet, and I put my finger into the last of the locks before I can place my piece of gear. And I realize, okay, I'm here, it's time. And as I go to grab the gear, I just start watching my foot shake. And my foot is not on anything good. It's just kind of wedged in a very, very small dihedral, which is just two pieces of rock put together like this. And so I'm relying on friction to keep me on. And so my foot shaking was slowly making my foot slide out. And I couldn't feel my fingers, and I felt my finger was not in the correct spot on the crack for the lock to stay. And the only thing I can remember thinking as I'm reaching for this cam to place it, that like, oh my God, this is not happening. If I don't put this piece in and get the rope clipped, I'm gonna have to take the biggest fall I've ever taken on this route onto a 0.2 cam in like shitty sandstone. And so I get the cam into the rock really fast, and I go to clip the rope. And as I'm pulling it up, I feel this like victory moment where like I'm thinking, yeah, I'm gonna make it. And I hear the carabiner clip, but unfortunately with the angle that I was at and clipping down by my shin, I missed clipping the carabiner. And I watched as my foot slipped and my hand popped at the same time. And the world around me just spun as I realized about halfway through the fall that I had fallen way farther than I should have. And then I kept going and kept going and kept going. And I just remember thinking, holy shit, I'm gonna hit the ground. And I got very, very lucky because I had a very good belaying partner that recognized what happened, because she thought that I clipped and realized very quickly that I didn't, and just started pulling in slack and running backwards as fast as she could. And eventually, like, I got very lucky, about 8 or 9 feet above the ground, like the cams and everything locked. And I wound up just getting barely caught underneath this roof, which I swung underneath, and I remember hitting my shoulder really hard and kind of going, holy shit, ah, but I'm not dead. And as I started looking around, I realized like I got super lucky because the cams didn't blow, the rock didn't blow, even though it should have. I broke cams out of that exact same placement at other points, and just kind of going, oh my God, I can't believe that I just made it out of this alive.